Hello, Toby. Hello, Attab. It's lovely to see you. I'm so glad we can all meet this evening. We are all going to be working together on the concert that is taking place at the Bloomsbury Festival on the 15th of October. So we'd like to ask you a few questions and for you to tell everybody a bit more about what we're doing, what you do, and what they can expect. So Toby, could you tell us a bit about who you are and what you do?
So my name's Toby. I play the lute, which really means I play a variety of different instruments, both lutes and guitars. My background is that as growing up, used to play the guitar, and I went the classical route and played classical guitar, and still do a little bit. But while I was studying at music college, I discovered that I liked old music, and eventually that I like playing it on old instruments too. And more recently, it's about how you bring to life both old music and occasionally new music on these different instruments that maybe people are not so familiar with, and have a particular sound and a particular quality of their own, which I think can still be relevant, hopefully anyway, to us now. So the instruments I have in a cupboard in the hall, the out of shot, include a theorbo, which is a giant sort of bass lute with lots of very long bass strings, Renaissance lutes, which are, there is an image in your head, if you close your eyes and think of the word lute, that's probably what it is, with the right angled neck and the pairs of strings, and a Baroque guitar, which is the 17th century version of a guitar, good for strumming, good for accompanying the voice, and for more sort of slightly raucous music. And as well as modern guitars and other kinds of lutes that I won't mention, and all sorts. So I spend my life, I suppose, doing a variety of different things. My bread and butter is probably plucking along in Baroque ensembles for things like Baroque opera, or accompanying singers and instrumentalists, and occasionally having a little solo piece to say of my own. And I would like to, I suppose, in my career, be a little bit less reactive. At the moment, it's just sort of, if someone asks me to come and play something, I'll go and do it if I can. And what's great about projects like this is that I feel I hopefully have a little bit more of my own sort of proactive musical voice, which I'm sure we'll talk more about.
Fantastic, yes, true. Attab, can you tell us, the celebrated oud player, Attab, please tell us about yourself and your musical career.
Hi, I'm Attab. I play the oud and I write music as well. So I got into doing this fairly late in life. I was almost 30 years old when I started playing professionally. And I only came across the instrument in my late 20s. So it was I kind of fell into doing this. I actually trained in business school, and then I started life working in a bank. And I had a complete change of heart, decided to go back and study sound engineering because I was always very interested in dance music. I used to make dance music in the 90s, back in the day. So it was during that period that I came across the oud by accident. My brother brought home a recording. We were both living at home at the time, and it was sort of a cross-cultural collaboration between a flamenco guitarist and an oud player, and that was my first real introduction to the oud. So it was a very non-traditional introduction. It wasn't the sort of music that you generally hear played on an oud, and that immediately sort of interested me because the oud was always in the background. Being from a Middle Eastern household, you know, my parents played Arabic music on the radio, on records, and so it's something that I was familiar with, but I didn't really know, didn't know anything about it. So it was after that recording, my brother started taking lessons. So I got in touch with his teacher, and I started taking lessons, and I completely got obsessed with the oud from that point on in my life. And it's been ups and downs with it, like any marriage. But I decided after getting seriously into it that I needed to study it a bit deeper. So I went to Egypt and I studied at the Arab Oud House in Cairo. for a while, and then I came back to the UK and I did a master's degree in music performance, Middle Eastern music performance. And so, yeah, I've been working since as an oud player in a variety of things. I run my own band, which has been going for about 14 years now. As well as that, I have partnerships with several musicians that go back quite a long way. I have a sort of a writing duet, and we perform together, myself and this flamenco guitarist Ramon Ruiz. We've been working together for 15 years on our own repertoire. And I've been quite lucky in that I mostly perform original music, which has been really great. I don't generally get called to play, you know, sort of as a sideman in you know, sort of classical chamber music or that kind of thing, because a lot of Arabic music is that. But I've been quite lucky in that I've worked a lot cross-culturally in a lot of different genres, and I've always been interested in trying to slot the instrument into things that may not necessarily be what you'd expect it to do, or where you'd expect it to perform well. So I've been, and so once I started doing those sort of projects, more of those sort of projects gravitated towards me as well. So I've been really lucky in playing with people from across the spectrum, really. And yeah, here we are.
Brilliant. So we have one musician who plays a lot of Baroque opera and Baroque and Renaissance music on a regular basis. Another musician who plays many different genres. I know you play in jazz sort of genre, all sorts of different grooves. How is what you're doing for NW Live Arts, for the Belonging concert, it's similar or different? What is it? Can you tell us? You can, whichever of you likes to go first, please go first.
Go on, Toby, you go first.
Well, us in the what we call the early music world, or the historically informed performance world, some people call it these days. Sometimes we like to think of us, particularly us who are continuo players. Continuo playing meaning accompanying from a bass line, using numbers to indicate the harmony. We sometimes like to think of ourselves as sort of improvisers. In a way, we are the improvisers of the classical world, because of course most classical musicians, although this is changing, actually classical improvisation is becoming more of a common thing. But generally speaking, people like me who went to music college and learned to play an instrument to hopefully a reasonably high standard don't do a lot of improvisation. So we like to think of ourselves as the sort of improvisers of the classical music world. And what's really nice about a project like this is being reminded that actually you're still a million miles away from people who where improvisation is what they do. You know, it's the foundation of what they do. And I found that really inspiring, and it's made me think a little bit about how I would like to play and other things I like to do, and becoming not becoming somebody like that, but at least taking a step in that direction. So in terms of what we do that's similar, I think I'm definitely trying to take a step over in that direction of being someone who can be as flexible as possible in terms of the style that they play in, and trying to slot in with different styles of music, because I think that's really interesting and really exciting. And I think there's a lot of scope for it actually from the repertoire that I play. You know, a lot of it is based around these structures that you can change, and you can hang different kinds of music and put it into it. So I think it works quite nicely. And Attab and I had a really good time coming up with some ways that we could play together for the last performance that we did. And I'm hoping that's just the beginning.
Great, fantastic. Briefly, Attab, can you expand on that? And also, can you tell us a little bit about the relationship, but briefly, about the oud and the lute?
Yes, well, I mean, I think that's partly why this collaboration has worked so well. I mean, I think it's important whenever you collaborate with someone that, well, that you get on a personal level, which I think, you know, we definitely do. I think that I think that helps a lot with the performance and with sort of coming up with something that's worthwhile. So the instruments are definitely related as well. The oud being the forefather really of the lute. The oud I mean, there's no real definitive answer as to where it originates from, but it's definitely from the Middle East. It could possibly be from Egypt. It could be from Mesopotamia. It could be from the Persian sort of tradition, because they all have prototypes of the same instrument. So you can't really tell. But by the time the Crusaders came to the Middle East, the instrument was quite widespread, and it was in fact the instrument that Arabic music theory was developed on. So it's the equivalent, I guess, of the piano in Western music. But it was introduced to the Crusaders, and they brought it back with them to Europe, and the instrument got modified with time. The frets were added, and more strings were added, but it essentially kept the same shape, the bowl back and the fairly short neck. Well, I guess not the theorbo, but well, I mean, you see both instruments and you think they are cousins, and they're definitely related. So that the sonority of both instruments together worked really well in this project, I think. And I wasn't surprised. I think, you know, I had a feeling that it was something that would definitely work really well. But then, like Toby said, the repertoire also helps what he brought to the table. And you know, I play a lot of Spanish music as well, and I think that was sort of a bridge for us to work from and to build upon, hopefully.
Fantastic. Well, actually, the Spanish music that you played, you are going to play in the next concert, has been a great inspiration for John Simmons, who is the writer who is facilitating our companion writers workshop with members from student refugees from Birkbeck University, and writers from Holborn Community Association are going to do workshops with John, and their work is going to be part of your concert, as you know, and you're going to be working with them. John asks, when I said I was talking to you, he asked me to ask a few questions. He says he's interested in meetings of things in this project that are often kept separate, words and music for a start, different cultures. How important, he asks, to you is the cross-cultural power of music? Again, could you keep it brief?
The brief answer then for me is it's very important.
And you, Attab?
I agree, for sure.
And can words play a bridging role in that?
I think it can go both ways, right? I mean, because we think of music as I mean, I think the word's universal language is a little bit of a truism, really, in that it can be, but it also cannot be. You know, we all have different ideas of what we want to hear. So I don't want to trot out that as a cliche, but sometimes definitely music can act as a communicating tool when you don't share a language, for example. But I think words can, you know, some people are more comfortable with words maybe, and some people are more comfortable with music. And if you can get them with one, you can then integrate the other, and hopefully we'll be doing some of that in our concert. Yeah,
I think as in terms of words being sort of the bridge, I think it's probably, for me, it's more the melodies that the words are sung to that can be what sort of speaks to you cross-culturally, because you I mean, in the literal sense, you may not understand the language, so the meaning of the words is completely lost on you, but the melody that they're sung in might be something that you connect with.
In this context, however, we haven't got singers, we have poetry being spoken, and you are playing instruments. So what will be interesting is how that you together, you decide what's the best way of presenting that. But I know that they're all very excited about meeting you, and it's part of what we do, as you know, that we like to bring together professional musicians and community artists, community writers, and to explore an important theme. Can we sort of finally talk about a little bit about this stimulus, which has a title, Belonging. It's part of our series Music and Place, and that's the title of the concert. How do you interpret that? How do you think we're interpreting that in the course of the concert through the repertoire through the choice of pieces, the use of instruments. Can you say a little bit about that?
I suppose for me, what it makes me think about, and thinking about the previous concert as well, is when you're on stage and you're performing whatever it is, in whatever context, as we discussed, both of us work in lots of different musical contexts, you've got to feel comfortable and relaxed and like you belong in whatever it is you're doing, even if it's something quite unfamiliar to you. So finding that feeling of being relaxed and connected to the music and able to express yourself, and able to also hear what other people are doing in an appreciative way. That's essentially what we want to create, both in ourselves and also in the audience.
The theme of belonging is something that's quite important to me, being sort of somebody who grew up in the UK to Arabic parents, and you know, not being a native of this land. Belonging is always a theme that's, you know, explored in my daily life, in my with my family and everything. So but in the musical sense, I think I agree with Toby in that it's belonging to the music that you're performing in the moment, and feeling comfortable enough in it to that it is maybe not a part of you, but something where you belong, something where you feel comfortable, something that you feel comfortable expressing as well. So that sense of belonging to the music that we are performing. And I think it is something that I personally feel. I feel that, you know, the program that we've chosen is something that we can all belong to and perform from that perspective.
Fantastic. Thank you both very, very much for talking to us, and very much look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.